We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. The number 737-7587 if you'd like to join us. You can also come on to the show and offer comments and the like on Facebook. And if you want to get a snapshot, if you go to newschannel5.com on Facebook right now for the show of the divisiveness going on out there and where we stand, go ahead and look at the comments. It's back and forth, blaming this, blaming that on either side. I understand the emotion and the feelings people have right now about the candidates. Let me just say, because it is so emotional and so partisanship, there is a ton of false information going out there. Everything from, is there fraud? Is there this? Look, if there is fraud, it should be found and it should be exposed. But to say that there is now, before there's any evidence of it, is just not it. And just to say, oh, you're trying to steal the election, if you're on the Trump side, or if you're on the Biden side saying the same type of thing with some of this, I want proof, and I haven't seen any of it yet. Now, that's not to say it won't surface, but just to say, oh, well, they're trying to steal the election, ain't going to cut it, folks. You got to get evidence of it. And to talk more about that and where we stand with all of this is Professor Thomas Schwartz joining us on Zoom. Good morning, sir, from Vanderbilt. How are you?
Good morning, Nick. Good. It's a beautiful day.
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still on edge. And I said a lot of, strong feelings right now, as I see on Facebook, people going back and forth. Let's just get to this right now. With regard to both sides, I want to lay it out for you kind of what I'm hearing. And what you hear from, the Trump administration right now is they want to have some lawsuits filed, which they are, asking that there maybe be more transparency. There's concern in their minds with the count right now for the absentee and mail-in ballots, just to make sure that they are legitimate. And they're raising some concerns that it's fraudulent, though there has been zero evidence to that point. Nothing wrong with looking into that. On the other side, you have the Biden camp saying, no, look, the president has been saying this 2-3 months ago, setting the stage because he knows that many of the mail-in ballots are going to maybe be Democrat as opposed to Republican. The reason for that is because you can believe that Democrats are perhaps a little more concerned about COVID, more wanting to mail in their vote than the Republicans, who maybe were more likely to go to the polls. So, I just don't think you would have a candidate challenging things without any evidence if he felt that the mail-in votes were going to help him. So you get the sense from the Bidens that, this is just a red herring from the president trying to raise questions without evidence. You have people on the president's side saying, look, we want to make sure there's transparency so there's no, hanky-panky going on here with the vote count. That's what it sounds like to me. My thing is, I just don't see any evidence so far of any fraud. And I know that there's going to be these cases going to courts. What do you think that all means?
It just means, I think it means that there's going to be a fair amount of doubt about the election over time, if it is as close as possible. Now, it may well be that Biden carries a number of these states that are close now, even Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and has a sizable electoral lead, and in which case I think it's harder to make the case that even if there were discrepancies in electoral count or voting count some states, it would have made that much of a difference. On the other end, if it does all come down to Pennsylvania, that could be an issue, because Pennsylvania is experimenting with a mail-in ballot system that it has never had. And so this is new. The possibility of mistakes are there. The possibility of someone trying to influence is there. So you're going to have suspicion, and in the present lack of trust that we have in institutions, that's not surprising.
Yeah, and you have things coming up like there was a story going out that was just patently false about how there were some precincts where they were having voters, mark their ballots with Sharpies. Did you see that? And that those would be thrown out.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Patently false. And it was all over Facebook initially before they blocked it. Yep. But so there's crap out there that's simply not true. And if whatever comes out happens to be more for whichever candidate you're supporting, I think people just blindly go along with it. And I'm talking about both sides.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think there's probably more tendency on the side that's losing right now, namely the Trump side, to at least initiate these suspicions because they are falling behind, and Biden is very close to declaring victory. So yes, I do think that's it is a characteristic in elections that really we can find going back in history quite a ways.
Let's take a phone call from Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick. Trump is a narcissist, not. If he gets beat, he's going to drag it out as long as he can with lawsuits if he can. But the main thing about this, I talked to a lot of people in different places, and this election has caused a division in this country. Even families are divided. I know people that start talking to their brothers and sisters. Children are not talking to their parents or vice versa. And this is not good for the country to have this kind of division. I've been around a long time, and I've never seen an election to where you have this kind of rhetoric going on and people rioting in the streets and burning and looting and all this kind of stuff. It just amazes me that we're destroying this country with this division.
No, there's no question. It's a shame to see this, and it is a very split country. You can see this by the electoral votes, relatively close. But is it not true, Professor, though, if this was a popular vote election, this would have long since been over? Joe Biden really outdistancing the president on popular vote, meaning just votes in general. In fact, getting the most popular vote of any president in history.
Right. But, you know, if it were a popular vote election, there would have been different techniques from the candidates.
Oh, sure. Different strategies.
The reason that it is different strategies. And so while it would not probably, while it might have been more decisive because of a Democratic victory, it also might have had other polarizing effects, for example, in vote counting in big states like California and New York, where the population is so. I'm not sure that the system itself is the reason for this division. It's the beliefs, it's the very different beliefs that both sides have about the future of the country that's more responsible for this division.
I know that one area being watched very closely are the polls and the counting of the votes in Pennsylvania, which is a very, very key state, of course. And there were protests we saw this morning outside some of the polling stations. And, you know, the director of elections in some of these areas where I think they were mostly Republican protesters outside saying, let us see it. I mean, they were being told this, and yet there were observers from both parties behind the glass watching. They were in there, and yet there's all these people rallying out here saying, let us in. They were already in there. It's misinformation, and at least in that case, there may be some others where there needs to be more transparency, but that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there were Republicans already in there watching, along with Democrats in there. I mean, that's been confirmed. Both sides acknowledge that, but the voters are out there protesting like, let us in. That's where the misinformation gets out there, and it's so emotional, they jump on it, and they're outside, they're protesting.
Well, yes, I think that's not terrifically surprising. I don't know that protest produced any particular damage, or it didn't lead to looting or violence. So you're going to have that. Hopefully it won't get worse, and you won't have, you know, people can be drawn to do things like that from social media. We've already seen that in terms of misinformation. I guess the great hope is that they're not drawn to do it and act in a violent manner.
Yeah, I wish we could have someone from another planet land here and just kind of observe and then tell us what they think. Because as I look on Facebook, depending on which side you're on, you're either saying, I don't believe the election results, or you're saying, I do believe the election results. Okay, so, and I throw them both out because you know what? It's partisanship, and you're only saying that because your candidate's winning or losing. Whereas I wish someone totally impartial could come in and really look at it and say, you know, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't even live on this planet. I'm leaving after today, but here, let me tell you what I see. Because everyone else, there's a partisanship bent to everything. Someone here saying, I don't believe the election results. I guarantee you Gloria is a Trump supporter there. And that's fine. She may not. I see someone else saying, oh, yeah, these election results, the way they're coming in, are right on point. I guarantee you that person is a Biden supporter. It's just, that's just the way it is. It's so partisanship, you know, across the board. Let's go to Ron next. Ron, good morning. Hi, Ron.
Yeah, I got a question for him. In 2002, Tennessee lawmakers voted to, well, in 2002, lawmakers have been split on issues largely along party lines. Democrats say that paper receipts could serve as a better backup. They also, Tennessee has got $29 million in unspent funds from the Help America Vote Act, the 2002 federal law that requires called on states to upgrade their voting system. In Tennessee in 2018, lawmakers, the Republicans did, voted again that to use those funds. Is those funds still sitting there that they were supposed to change the voting machines in Tennessee?
Do you have any knowledge of that in terms of upgrading and the money set aside for that? I'm not sure what the answer is for that.
I'm not sure either, although my own personal experience, the voting machines certainly have been upgraded in Davidson County where I vote. And, now you have a record of your vote that you submit into a machine. So they have been trying to avoid, when I started voting, you just pressed the machine button and that was the way in which you did it. Now there's a record created. So my sense is that some counties have certainly used money to upgrade machines.
Yeah. Listen, on that note, we've got to take a break. When we come back, we have some more calls, Michael and others making comments right now on Facebook as well. If you want to join in the conversation, we've got another couple segments just to try to lay out what we can expect over the next couple of days and whether or not we'll learn who the next president will be. We'll be right back with more in The Professor right after this.